Welcome to Generating Demand, real stories from the B2B trenches, where we tell you our secrets, like how to establish thought leadership or rock your webinar registrations, and tips and tricks to drive sales-ready leads. Lean in, listen, and learn. We've got you covered. This podcast is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence Briefing.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Generating Demand, Stories from the B2B Trenches. My name is Amanda McGuckin-Hager. I'm here with my guest, Jodi Bart Holzband. Welcome, Jodi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so excited you're here. You are our first PR professional to talk about generating demand through PR efforts. And I'm a big fan of PR in generating demand. And so I'm super excited to have you here. I'm also really excited to share your story. I know a little bit about it, and it's going to be awesome.
I'm excited too. And this is my first time as a guest on a podcast, but I'm very used to preparing executives for these sorts of things.
Well, here's your 15 minutes.
Here it is.
Here it is. For the audience, Jodi is a PR consultant. She's been doing this on her own for the last 3 years or so, and using the experience that she's gained over 20 years of her career working with global agencies, both on the agency side and on the client side, going in-house for different technology companies, all sizes, from early stage startups to multinational and global billion-dollar companies as well. So that is a wealth of experience that you bring to your PR consultants or to your PR clients today.
Yes.
Yeah. And the story that I have is about one of your clients, or the story that you'll be sharing is about one of your clients, Viopta, which is a collaborations intelligence platform. And you all, as I understand it, did a survey that you're going to tell us about and publish those results. Now, I want the audience to know that Jodi and I go back over a decade. We worked together at a company over a decade ago. We've been following each other's careers and supporting each other in different endeavors. And I saw Jodi sharing some of the results of this effort on her LinkedIn page, and immediately reached out and said, "You've got to tell the story on my podcast. This is amazing." So I'm super, super excited to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm happy to share. And yeah, my focus has really honed into B2B technology. So I assume some of your listeners are in that space. And I think surveys are an extremely important tool for success in PR for B2B technology companies.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. So I myself am no stranger to doing surveys, but someone that may not have conducted a survey or understands why that survey is important to B2B audiences.
Yeah.
What's your perspective?
Let's just rewind a little bit and talk about a challenge of doing PR in general in the B2B technology space.
Yeah.
It can be hard to get coverage in B2B technology. And it is next to impossible to get coverage outside of the trade publications in your space. So, it depends on the topic. There's a lot of factors, but generally what you're putting out in terms of press releases and getting coverage for could be big company news, right? If there's funding, that's great. That, you'll get coverage for that and beyond probably your trade publications, but you're not always getting $50 or $100 million, right? That's not happening all the time. So in between, you're doing maybe product announcements, platform updates, event announcements. You might even do company news press releases, but it's hard to get those to be covered even in your trade publications because they know it's news, right?
Key hires, same if you have add to your executive team.
Yeah.
That's great for you. Not a lot of media publications will care.
Right. Awards, same thing. Great to have those logos on your website. Will it get covered? I don't know. So it's hard. A lot of B2B tech PR is kind of telling that story through your press page so that if someone goes and looks through there, I always tell my clients, like, this is your chance to write your own history of your company and all the milestones along the way. So
that's great.
Yeah, coverage is really important, super important, but think about, the story that you want to tell. So I always recommend surveys to my clients, regardless. The company that we're going to be focusing on today is called Viopta. They are a collaboration intelligence company based in Austin as well,
Nice.
as you and I are. And what they do is they look at an enterprise or organization's collaboration, performance, management, and analytics across platforms. So a lot of companies, for example, you and I are on a video chat right now. So this is the kind of thing that they are looking at. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, all of these platforms, they have their own monitoring. But what if you have 3 different ones that are being used throughout your network?
Which is quite common.
It's very common, right? Because individuals have, and teams use different platforms for
Different
different reasons.
preferences.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a way that you can see everything that's going on in your network. You can look at problems, you can figure out solutions, that kind of thing. So that's what they do. And they've been great in terms of they have a lot of information, a lot of great news to put out. They are constantly adding to their products. They're constantly innovating. It's never been an issue to find, like, what are we going to do?
What are we going to talk about? And
yeah.
For the audience, back to your original point, Jodi, of writing your own history on your press page. I think a lot of what I say to companies when I'm working with them is you need to show momentum. You need to show activity. You need to show that there are things going on. It's not stale.
Right.
And you
when there's
do
a
that.
black hole, it's like, what's going on with that company?
Exactly.
It's a question for sure. And some companies have more to say than others do. Some companies, have more announcements. I think it's fun. You don't have to have, 2 to 4 announcements a month, but you should have at least one a month. And, kind of thinking throughout your year, right? Maybe you want one company release every year that talks about, ways that you're growing, that you're comfortable sharing. And so anyways, there's a mix there. I don't want to get too deep into that. But so they've been great, and they get tons of coverage in the trade publications that write about them. They,
Nice.
if you are looking for what they do, you will find them. They're one of the few companies that do what they do. I started working with them actually in March of 2020. And we did a survey last year that we broke up into 2 separate press releases that we did with our own mailing list. So via writing to their customers and then issuing a survey.
And just for the audience, Jodi said mailing list. I don't think she means the postal mailing list. I think she means the email mailing list that's in there. I refer to it as your house list, right? Who's in your database, your customers and your prospects.
Exactly.
But yes, your known audience that is sitting in your database.
Marketers handled sending that out to, because that's, you have the list, right? Companies always say, like, we have a list of customers, we have a list of prospects. There's so many people, let's do that. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. It is inexpensive in some ways, but expensive in other ways. So you're going to have to deal with that data. You're going to have to slice and dice that data. Who's going to be looking at it? There's no one in that role usually at companies whose job it is to, you might be doing other surveys. It depends on the size, but doing it yourself, it's a deviation from your regular routine of what everyone's doing. And it can be pretty distracting. Same with company data that exists. There's another thing of let's share our data externally.
I love that approach. That is one of my favorite approaches.
It can be hard though. So from a PR perspective, right, what can I control, right? I can't control the folks within the business pulling that data and giving it to me. I can't control,
right.
So if I need to show results, I'm like, if you give me those things, I will use them and I will do my best with them. But what Viopta agreed to do this year, and it took, some months of discussion, was to hire an external survey company that focuses on PR headlines and has former reporters that work there and help with content. And I have worked with other survey companies, and there are some good ones, but this one is the best, and they're called Wakefield. I don't work for them in any sense of the
no affiliation.
No affiliation whatsoever, but they're the best as far as my personal experience in terms of understanding, right? There's lots of reasons to do surveys. Marketers do surveys all the time, right? How do we improve our product? Lots of reasons. What I'm trying to do for my companies is get them coverage, get them headlines in media, and ideally, because it was important to Viopta as well, they wanted to get coverage beyond the trades. They wanted to get coverage in broad business, national, international publications. They wanted their name out there beyond the usual. So,
and this would be like the New York Times, Washington Post, these types of sort of
yeah,
consumer publications that have the business sections,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
definitely a step beyond trades that are really only focusing on the small niche.
exactly.
Um,
And it's hard to get into those publications, and they're,
mhm,
and even um, some of them might not even work with companies providing surveys, even if it's a great survey. So, but they do. They're hungry for content just like everyone else. And
mhm,
if you can, figure out something that's sexy enough that's done by a reputable survey company, that helps too, that they
mhm.
respect and they know the name of. All those factors really help. I also recommend. I think it's great if you're with a smaller, more scrappy company that does not have a powerful legal department. You can have a
Mhm.
little bit more fun with these surveys, and so that's a benefit that I think small, mid-sized companies have over these large multinational companies, right? That you're
Yes,
never
because
going
they
to
can
get.
be
Yeah, they can get away
agile.
with
They
it.
don't get stuck in the legal department, never to be seen again.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, well, that's great. And I think one thing that's really important to your point is making sure that the study and the results and the publication, or however they get out to the media, is relevant to the industry at large, right?
Yes, if you mean like if you want coverage beyond just exactly what you do, right? Or your trade
Exactly.
publication, it's like, yeah, what are people in business? What are CEOs? And so that, I mean, that actually is a great transition, because the people who buy the product that we
Mm-hmm.
sell,
Mm-hmm.
they're IT people pretty much, right? It's
Okay.
often IT people who are, the ones that are going to be feet held to the fire if their video collaboration tools aren't working and no one can meet, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
So they sell into the IT
they sell
department
into
who's going to
IT, right?
purchase it and implement it across the organization.
Yes, and previously with surveys, with our data, that's what it speaks to. Okay, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not, that's not who the New York Times is, the Wall Street Journal, right? They're not
Right.
those people. So what this did is it really brought Viopta to the attention of the CEO level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only that; it pointed out that UC, Unified Communications and Collaboration, it's now of interest to the CEOs. They are demanding reports. They want to know, is this working? Because their entire, you know, workforce is on, collaboration tools. If it's not working, the
Yes.
company is not working. So it's essential right now during COVID, as we're all, hybrid and working from home. And so this survey actually was a hybrid work survey that we conducted
Nice.
in August of this year.
Nice.
Yeah. And so just going back a little bit, we started talking about the survey in November and it didn't get done until August. So just, it can take some time. I don't want to get too much into numbers, but it's something that we had to budget for sure. It was higher than we wanted to spend. There were other
Mm-hmm.
survey firms that charged less, but I really felt that if we're going to do this, let's do this right.
Mm-hmm.
I put my reputation with my client on the line a little bit. So I'm lucky that this worked, and it doesn't always, right? I mean, you can put out news as a PR person and something else happens and you are buried. You can't control what else
Yes.
is out there.
That is the truth of PR. You don't
Yeah.
control the other storylines.
Yeah.
Um,
And what you think might be a hit might not be a hit. So yeah, so in PR, you can't control what's happening on the other side. You can't control what other news is coming out. There's a lot there. So
mhm.
what what I suggested. So generally, surveys are about 20 to 25 questions.
That's good.
And when I set the stage with our partner, our survey partner, and with my clients on our
Mm-hmm.
kickoff call, I said, I'd like to get more than one press release out of this survey. I would like to be able to have a few different, maybe 2 to 3 moments in time where we have a chance to get coverage for this. And
Mm-hmm.
so let's keep that in mind as we're putting together the questions and trying to find, like 2 or 3 separate themes.
I think I want to just pause and say that for the audience sake, that it may be worth noting that you developed the survey with the end in mind,
Absolutely.
right? You were
Absolutely.
creating the survey, trying to figure out what are we going to get to, which is an awesome angle. I think in my experience, sometimes the survey reveals things that end up being the gold, right? That you may not have the foresight in the survey development. So I think it works both angles. You need to create the survey with the end in mind, but then also be open to the story that the data tells you.
Exactly. With the we're thinking headlines, right? So
Yeah.
from PR, so we're thinking headlines. What's the headline?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I do want to add that, like, working with a survey partner that thinks that way, most statisticians, survey providers are
Yeah.
thinking in words. They're not thinking that way, right? And so, and as we iterated through the survey, right, we worked together as a team really closely to figure out, like, why we were doing something or why we were not. And it also had to tie in with the story that we wanted to tell,
Mm-hmm.
essentially that collaboration is of interest at the highest levels and can't
Yeah.
be ignored right now. And then
Yeah.
talking about how companies were going to handle hybrid work. So essentially, we did a landing page with a third of the results and a press release
Okay.
that went with that.
Nice.
We released initially, and then actually this week we released the second piece with a press release,
Nice.
and then in a couple weeks we'll do the third. We don't want to get too far from when the survey actually took place, which was in August, but we did want to spread it out a bit. Honestly, just because this is a marketing audience, so we could reach our goals, right? September was the end of the third quarter.
End of quarter.
And
Yeah.
we blew our goals out of the park. And if I had put all my survey results in that quarter, then I'd be scrambling a bit in this quarter. So
Yeah.
we're thinking about that too, wanting to spread out the results of when we issued these.
So I think what you said is critical a critical point to make to the audience, which is you didn't reveal all the results at the same time, instead splitting it up into threes to maximize coverage and demand generation, not just coverage.
Yeah, and speaking to your audience, an ebook will be created that will cover the entire survey. I don't know all the other plans that marketing is putting forward in terms of using this in social media, right? There's in sales presentations. There's just so much here that can be repurposed.
Yeah, it's really rich.
Yeah.
But you created a press release that went out on a wire, I assume. The press release pointed to a landing page on the Viopta website.
Mm-hmm.
And from that website, readers and prospects were able to, I assume, engage with the sales process in some way, either requesting a demo or requesting a conversation with the sales team.
Yeah.
And that's how the demand was driven, right? Was organically through the website.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I will say that this particular type of coverage is probably one of the least likely to lead to demand generation, right?
To direct demand generation,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's, if you do a product update and someone goes to your website from that, they're more likely to want to buy, right? They're going to be closer to this. This could just be someone who's curious about Viopta. My thinking here is what this does in terms of the business reason for doing it is if the company wants to raise money, if they're looking to get acquired, these kinds of high level coverage is going to make a difference to those people that are looking to, are we interested in this company? Is this company we want to invest in? Is this company we want to buy? Company we want to partner with, so
and also candidates for hiring. I mean, there's so much goodness that comes out of PR in my mind. I mentor a lot of startups, and I generally find myself saying this over and over to them, which is your prospects cannot buy you. They literally cannot buy you if they don't know you exist.
Right.
Like, the very first thing you have to do is establish that you exist, right? Yeah. And PR and studies like this and coverage like this is such an amazing way to do that, not only with your prospects, but like you said, with potential investors or business deals, partners, candidates to hire.
Yep.
I mean, it goes well beyond the sales funnel.
Absolutely. It does help too. I didn't get metrics for you on this, but SEO, there was a ton of backlinks to Viopta's website from
absolutely
high DA websites. Our average domain authority of coverage, a lot of which did link back to Viopta's website, was 76. That's
nice.
average. So that's insane. I mean,
that's huge domain authority for all the SEO folks out there. That domain authority is backlinking to your website from high domain authority sites where the coverage was published, is what Jodi's saying. And so
And it
There's a
raises
rich.
your, it raises, maybe your domain authority is 60, right? You're getting covered in 80 level domain authority, you might go up to 61, 62. It helps raise that. And then you're going to be suggested more. You're going to come up higher in the Google searches, search engine results pages. So,
it adds to the company's overall credibility.
exactly.
Yeah. Online and offline.
Right. Totally. So going back to kind of the strategy. So yes, the first press release had what we thought was like the sexiest headline.
Yeah.
What it was, just to share that with you, was the Viopta survey reveals executives don't fully trust 1/3 of remote workers to effectively perform. So that was the headline.
Which was a very hot topic, hot narrative in the market at the time of COVID. Yeah.
Yep. And that was, so when we did the survey was in August, and that was sort of when COVID was rearing its head again, right? We kind of thought, we're vaccinated, a lot of people are vaccinated. We're kind of going out, we're seeing family.
We're going back to normal. Yeah.
And then companies had to claw back those plans when Delta hit. So the timing worked out again in terms of when we put this out. If we were too late, it might have not worked as well. What we did in terms of just putting it on the wire, because that's risky. The truth is, the minute you post a press release to the wire, it's old. So, and that's normally.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's traditionally what I've been.
Yeah, it was like, it was 2 hours ago. Oh, it was yesterday. It's no longer. So again,
so what did you guys do?
Normally, I post a press release and then I pitch it. That's normally what I do. But something special like this, where it's like the stakes are high. How I handled this one was, you can pitch an exclusive, right? Where maybe you are contacting the Wall Street Journal and saying, this is yours for 24 hours. If you'll, hold an embargo, keep it a secret, essentially, you can be the one to break it. But what I did for this one was I just did some pre-pitching without exclusives. So offered it to some folks at, high-end publications. First, they had to agree that they're going to keep it, close to vest until this date and this time. And then, so offered it to Fortune and Forbes and Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal and New York Times. And I had actually been collecting a list of all of the writers that were writing about hybrid work and remote work, right? Because these were not people that we are normally pitching.
Yeah.
These were different folks. So anyways, was able to get a story in Forbes, which was a great coverage. I mean, the whole piece was just about our survey, and then actually asking other companies to weigh in, right? Like, we were the focus. And then after not getting interest from Bloomberg, so I wrote to the Bloomberg reporter on Twitter. I said, hey, there's a survey in your inbox. I hope you'll take a look at it. He says, we receive 10 hybrid work surveys every hour.
Oh.
Okay? Moved on, right? So went forward. Then he gets back to me and he says, wait a minute. This survey is awesome. Now, this was actually after it was posted to the wire.
Okay.
I want to do this. I want to cover it. So you never know, I mean, you use strategy and you try to, get ahead of things as much as you can. And then, we would have gotten coverage, but it was the Bloomberg piece, because they are syndicated worldwide, that pushed us over the edge. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was the key. And then Fortune, Forbes covered us again. I mean, it's now, I think, the type of stat, like I think you've mentioned with the previous survey, where it's going to keep coming up, right? Because it's now been validated. It's not just from a company's press release
perspective. Yeah.
It's with a partner that is a well-respected survey company, and it's been covered in national and international publications. It's now, an acceptable stat. And where's the stat come from? It comes from Viopta. So it does become a gift that keeps on giving when it's successful.
That's amazing. So I have a random question about statistical relevance. I know when I first started in marketing,
statistics was the worst class in college. I'm like, oh God, it's coming back to me.
I didn't even take this class in college. So when I first started out in marketing and it started coming up as a statistically relevant, there's always somebody in every crowd that will ask, is this statistically relevant? And um, I have a little bit of an opinion on that, but I want to hear from you as our expert. Like, how do you make sure that your survey is statistically relevant? And so, any reporters or anyone that might ask about that.
Yeah. Well, I would say work with a respected
partner.
company. So we looked at 2 or 3 or 4 companies for this because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to provide options, and
Mm-hmm.
any of them would have been just fine to work with, right? They know what they're doing. And I can't remember, it's in the notes for this survey, and I can share a link that you can share with your audience so they can take a look and see. But I think you need to speak with at least 300 folks taking the survey, and then it'll say this is relevant within 1 or 2 points or however they do that. But when you're working with a respected partner, a known partner, that's the key, right? Like
They handle the statistical relevance. You don't have to worry about that.
yeah, you don't have to worry about it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just known that this is a company that knows what they're doing. And then I always Googled the companies because I was like, how, are they, is their research getting covered in the media, because that's
Oh,
validating it too,
nice.
right? And this
That's a
is,
great angle.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this company was getting covered all over the place, and that's because also they focus on PR. So but yeah, you don't want to work with a company that you've never found a quote anywhere that of their research, if that's your goal
Yeah.
to get media coverage, right? So
Very true. Very true.
yeah.
Well, that is awesome. That is such a major success story, really, truly, to get outside of trades, to get into not just one, but all of those publications with the
Yeah.
survey results, to, like we talked about, bring the brand awareness to Viopta as a company, and what they do, that collaboration intelligence,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
platform, is huge.
Yeah. And not every company, right, I mean, this was a moment in time for Viopta and for this space where it
Mhm,
made a lot of
mhm,
sense. And it actually
mhm.
is pretty tied into what they do.
Yeah.
So you want to think, obviously, if you're working with a company and you think of a survey idea that has nothing to do or is very far away, right? It's like, in terms of the funnel, it has to be like somewhere in the funnel, right? It can't be like up in the clouds.
Yeah.
Why is this
Yeah.
company doing this survey? It has to make sense as to why, right? So it's not, I don't think, like, I would not walk into any company and be like, we can do this. This is, there's, making sure that connection makes sense. So
Yeah. That's a big point. And I think having a unique perspective in the market is another big point. I know I'm writing a survey now, and I looked at 7 or 8 different surveys that have been published this year, um, on what questions they were asking, and therefore not trying to repeat the same questions, right? Because
absolutely.
that is not news. It's old news,
Right.
actually. So what is our unique perspective on this topic or this issue?
Totally.
And
What's
that,
been done and what is new, or what is the things that have been put out? What are the questions now, right? And can you help answer those?
and what are, to your point, what's relevant right now? What's
Hmm.
relevant in the market or in the narrative right now?
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome, Jodi. Thank you so much. I think this is
Amanda.
a truly valuable episode. I can't wait for the listeners to check it out. But we have come to the point in our podcast now where I ask all of our guests to share resources. So you're 20 years into your career, as am I, and through time we've grown into different roles and grown our skill sets, and we haven't done that alone or in a silo. So I'd like to ask you, what are some resources that you have personally benefited from, either in your PR skill set or in your career growth?
Thank you. Yes, and I didn't give you the heads up because I wanted you to be excited. But well, based on support is sort of what I hear you asking. So I'll start there. There are some PR groups on Facebook, actually, not on LinkedIn. That
Okay.
I'm in, and some of them are quite large, and some of them are very small. And they are a place where other PR colleagues can bounce ideas off of each other. Has anyone done something like this? Just connecting with other folks.
Yeah, those are hugely valuable.
And that's a free resource. And then there's also, if you're a solo PR practitioner, there's Solo PR Pros, which is a paid group. And
Okay.
that is extremely useful. I can't remember the amount. It's a couple $100s a year, not
Yeah.
crazy. And it's really a community. So people are involved, and I've gotten new business from that group, lots of advice and support, and just an awesome group. So
Awesome.
yeah, I always look, and I think this, there's also Women in Communications here in Austin, and that's been a
Mhm.
really nice resource. Just meeting others who are in the similar field and maybe working for themselves also. I think it can be lonely when you're a consultant to, you don't get those water cooler conversations that often. And,
Yeah.
it's nice to chat with people about what they're working on and issues in common, challenges, how they've overcome different things. So I love that. In terms of tech resources, I recommend Coverage Book. So
Okay.
I
I've
also
never heard of that.
I have an
Is that a book?
Coverage Book is a website,
Okay.
coveragebook.com. And I have an annual subscription to that. That allows me to share coverage reports with my clients in a really
Oh, nice.
visual way. So versus an Excel spreadsheet or,
Oh,
list,
great.
it will actually show the visuals. It will talk about the impressions. It will talk about the domain authority. You can print it
That's
out and hand
awesome.
it to someone. You can use it in a PowerPoint presentation, pull it up on a website and just share it in a meeting. It's a great resource.
I've never heard of that, and I already see what a great resource it will
It's amazing.
be.
And I love
Yeah.
it too. Sometimes, especially like the coverage, I didn't count all the coverage from the Viacta survey because I'd look at something and it would say, readership 23, not 23,000, just 23. Okay, I'm not going to put that one in there, right? Because it's like some of the
Right.
clients rate as real sites. So it helps me also validate what this coverage is and the quality of it and what I actually want to share with my clients, right? So
Nice.
that Coverage Book is awesome. And then a free tool, which anyone who wants to get covered in the media, and I'm sure you've heard of this before, is Helper Reporter Out. It's called
Oh,
Horror.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It can be overwhelming. You receive multiple emails a day, and it is,
Yeah, I think I've
yeah.
subscribed and unsubscribed and
Yes.
subscribed again.
I mean, yeah, seriously, it's a job in itself. So, right, my clients, they could get Haro, but do they want to spend the time to look at Haro? But I work with Helper Reporter Out for my clients all the time, looking for opportunities for
Nice.
them to get covered. It's a great resource. So that's nice if you don't necessarily have news, but you have expertise to share. All those articles that you read that says this person from this company, that was probably a PR person who subscribes to Haro, sending it to the executive, helping them edit it, sending it back, and that's how those things often come about.
That's awesome. Those are some great resources.
Oh, I have one more.
Okay.
I was having lunch with another PR person, and she pulled out an iPad and started taking notes on it. Now this is like, I'm just a notebook person, and I was always
Yeah, I'm a notebook person too.
notebook person, paper calendar, but I have so
Yeah.
many notebooks for different clients or different things that are happening in my life. Like I take Spanish.
I wish you could see my desk right now.
Like you got to find the right notebook so this way I take it with a pen. I've got a little pen here. I write
Okay.
notes in my handwriting and I put it in my different sections. So, in a notebook where you meet, oh, let me write it down, but you're like in the wrong notebook or the wrong section. And then
Happens to me all the time.
it's really
Yes.
frustrating. So this way, like
Yes.
everything says the date. It is very cool. It's not the same feeling as writing on paper, but in terms of like the organizational aspect of it, it's been incredible.
And what is it? We don't know the
It's
name
just
yet.
my iPad. Oh, the program I'm using is called Notability.
Oh,
Um,
I've heard of
yeah,
Notability.
I'm
Oh,
using
good.
Notability just because she recommended it, and there's so many out there, and I didn't want to try, so I can't really compare and contrast because a lot of times
Yeah.
we don't have time to do all the research, and it's like, oh, this works for you, so
I'll try it.
it's been great.
Yep.
I mean, I really recommend it. It's just I still like notebooks, and maybe there's
Mhm.
times and places for a notebook, but when you've got a lot of different categories, kids, things in your life that you're working on, and having a space to organize it is lovely. So
Is huge.
yeah,
Well, that's awesome. Those are some really great resources. I
good.
hope the audience takes advantage of them.
Absolutely.
Um,
Thank you
well,
so
it's
much
so
for
nice
giving
to
me
have
any
you.
time. This is like it's very exciting. I'm always preparing my clients for this, and fun to be able to tell a story about what I do. And actually, my parents can learn a little bit about what I do.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough for joining and for sharing that story. It's definitely a success story, one for the books. I hope that others listen and take heed on some of the suggestions and strategies that you shared. It's definitely, those types of stories are rare. And I want to make that point that success stories like that sometimes are hard to come by. And
there's a lot of factors that come together, right? Supportive client that will invest money and time in doing this. The right story to tell at the right time in the market, right? There's a ton there. But in general, surveys are great. And if you can only do them with your email list,
it's better than no stories.
Right. Start out small, because then you can also prove yourself, right? Like, oh, see what we did with this. Imagine what we could do with that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Too. I don't think it's all or nothing. It's just, this was kind of gold standard, and we were able to deliver, thank God.
Yeah. Well, fantastic job. I know they're very thrilled with your results. So thanks again, Jodi. Thanks for being here.
See you.
Take care.
Bye.
If you have any questions, want to suggest topics, or have ideas for guest speakers, drop us a line at podcast@virtualintelligencebriefing.com. To learn more of our demand generation secrets, visit vibriefing.news or grab the link in our show notes.